One of the OG athlete creators is joining us to share how you can use your passions to get to the money. Amobi Okguo is the creator of Frugal Athlete, a platform he founded while playing soccer professionally. The idea started as a weekly blog post to express his passion for financial literacy and has since grown into a media company that has gotten him on the Forbes list. But that's not all. Amobi says that being a creator has opened more business opportunities for him than being a professional athlete. Through building the company while being a pro, he has acquired a skill set and network that has accelerated his next chapter of entrepreneurship. And in this episode, you will learn how to get to the money, from using content to create business opportunity as an athlete, to transitioning your hobby into a business, and evaluating the right monetization strategies, from podcasting to partnerships and courses. Welcome back to New Game Labs, where we help creators in sports level up in business. It's your host, Kirby Porter. I'd love to hear your thoughts as you're listening. You can leave us a comment here on YouTube. Now let's talk with our guest. So I once heard from Amobi in a YouTube video that if you're not making money from it, it's a hobby. And that is something that a lot of creators need to hear early on. And I totally agree with you. The point of your summary of how you built Frugal Athlete was that you wish you had a plan of monetizing from the very beginning when you were starting it in 2016, when you were playing professional soccer. And I think it is a new approach that a lot of creators do have to take, because so many get so far in their content creation with no plan to monetize. And I think if we can think about these things earlier, it just sets us up for success. So I'm excited to talk about like how you have evolved a Frugal Athlete from when you started it, when you're playing professionally, expanded the platform across multiple mediums as a pro soccer player. And now it's a platform that you've been able to carry with you post soccer into this really successful career. And it's a blueprint for many. It was a blueprint for me. So let's dive into that journey. And would love to begin with how you kind of originated the idea for Frugal Athlete back in 2016 while playing professionally.
Oh, yo, thank you. Yeah, so started obviously. Everyone talks about like the Broke documentary kind of shifting the narrative or like flipping the switch in a lot of people's minds. So for me, I saw that documentary and I was immediately curious of athletes that didn't fit the model of that story. And initially, what I kept finding were athletes, no disrespect, LeBron James, Tom Brady, Serena Williams, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. And those athletes are anomalies. Those are the 1% of the 1%. And even though I played professional soccer, I wasn't at that level where if I retired, I could be on a beach somewhere chilling. So as I did more research, I was finding athletes that fit the broke model, and I was trying to, get away from the scare tactics. But then when I really dove into it, I was finding athletes that I could use as role models, whether it was a Paul Rabel, a Donald Foyle, Andrew Hawkins, the list goes on and on. And that's kind of how a Frugal Athlete stemmed. It was more about my personal curiosity of, athletes that I could follow their roadmaps, both from prudent financial decisions and also smart career decisions, and go from there.
And those are such great examples too. What was your first step in creating around it? I know today you have your Instagram, podcast, YouTube, you're on TikTok. Like you
Yeah.
have done such a great job of being omni-channel and really expanding the presence, adapting to the times. But where did it start from a content perspective?
So I started really just a Squarespace blog. So yeah, it was literally a blog. I had a buddy of mine help me design it, and it was all right. Once a week, I'm going to highlight an athlete, and I'm gonna say like a little bit of how his story, and then I'm going to showcase why I think they exemplify what it means to be a frugal athlete. And for me, a frugal athlete is just someone that's efficient with their money and their career, and like make like a blurb about how you can apply it using their strategy. And yeah, it was literally just a blog. I would put it on Twitter and then sometimes post on Instagram. If you like look at, I think I deleted them or archived them, but like the early graphics, I'm like, oh yeah, you could tell I had no idea what I was doing.
It is so funny to look back at those like first things that you did and just be like, ooh,
Yeah,
that it wasn't
exactly.
it.
I was like,
It wasn't
whoa.
it.
But if you
But
don't
if you
have those
didn't do
moments,
that, if you
exactly.
didn't do that, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing today. How did you evolve the content format over time into video, into podcast? Was there an example that you saw where you're like, okay, the blog is a good starting point, but maybe doesn't match the audience? Or was it just kind of finding things that more naturally fit your creation style?
No, I think that's a great question because I think it's a combination of all those things you mentioned. For me, you got to follow the trendsetters. Obviously, like the financial literacy space, I consider myself one of the early people in terms of like consistently creating content, consistently sharing information. But when it comes to like understanding marketing or understanding social media and digital media and how to get people to really engage in your content, I was just learning from people that were doing it before me, whether it's the bigger brands like a Front Office Sports or Uninterrupted, or Boardroom, or even individuals like Paul Rabel. There's so many others. He just immediately comes to mind. And then from an efficiency standpoint, understanding, people like Gary Vee and like video, the trends of video, and the fact that you can do video and then transcribe the video to blog and then use the video, rip the audio, have it as a podcast. And I was like, I've already had this soccer career, so let me maximize my time and start doing videos. And then you just learn as you go what works, what you're efficient with, your skill set. And then the thing is, like, even though something might be working, you always got to be ready to evolve and adapt because there's new trends. So like I was mastering, 5-minute videos and doing like series, and then now it's short form. Like, can you tell your story in a minute? And then now they're like, can you tell your story in 20 seconds? And it's like, actually, can you get them their attention in the first 3 seconds? So taking the content, because I always build like a whole big dashboard, and then always like reinventing it. So now it's like I have this content, I have the script, but it's like, all right, what do I need to adjust so they're staying hooked for the first 3 seconds? What financial information am I going to use? Another thing, I know that you can definitely attest to this. I was trying to keep a Frugal Athlete separate and Amobi Okguo its own thing. And I hate to talk about myself in third person, but just to kind of drive home the point. And it was like, no, Amobi Okguo is a Frugal Athlete, and that's been a big change over the past like year and a half.
I love this topic because I feel like across the interviews, I've gotten such a diverse range of perspectives from creators that like to tie their personal brand to the brand, some that like to separate it. And there's pros and cons with both. And I really think it depends ultimately on what is the brand that you're creating. Something I've always admired about your work is that I think what helps you differentiate Frugal Athlete from all the financial literacy platforms or just all the athlete transition platforms is that you were the brand, right? Like you embodied what the brand was about. And when the actual creator embodies it, and it's not just this person that like never played a sport that's trying to talk to athletes about it, or it's like, what? Like,
Yeah,
give me someone that knows what's going on. And I
exactly.
do think when you have that real unique insight, it sometimes it does help to
Most
attach
definitely.
the brand to the brand, and it doesn't have to be your entire personal brand, but like sometimes you got to pay attention to what works, which is a common thing we've been talking about too.
No, most definitely. I
um,
definitely agree with that.
yeah, for sure. And what type of business opportunity, because we're going to get into the monetization piece of a frugal athlete in our next bit, but what business opportunity do you feel like having that outlet and that platform created for you while you were playing professionally, even if it wasn't immediately monetary?
So to be honest, a Frugal Athlete probably did more for me than it's tough to say because soccer definitely gave me the platform and access. But a Frugal Athlete really put a stamp on, oh, okay, he can do something outside of just have a lot of connections or play a sport. So the fact that I've had to do negotiations of brand deals, the fact that I've had to cold email outreach, the fact that I've had to create content, um, people like really respect that. So when it came to like my transition for opportunities, whether it be consulting or advising or being talent, they see a proven product and not just like from my soccer career and things I've done on interviews. So a Frugal Athlete helped me develop skills that I would have had to retire and probably get like an entry level job right out the gates and try to work my way back up. But Frugal Athlete kind of helped me skip that process. Not to say that I didn't have to work hard and kind of pay my dues, but it was a lot easier process to really show that, okay, all the things you're talking about, I already know because I had to do it on my own without any help. So that's probably one of the biggest things that a frugal athlete has done for me.
I always hone on this point that if you're a college student and you want to get into an industry, or you're a recent graduate and you want to get to a certain place, create the role that you want by starting a podcast or starting a content outlet. That is literally what you did. Like, you created your own role that gave you different skills, and you promoted yourself within your own business, and all these things even before monetization that kind of give you more optionality and leverage in business as you're talking to bigger brands and you want to get into different industries as an athlete. And so there's ways that people that are listening or watching this can apply that, whether they want to do it as a internship path or a career path, or even as a founder. And like, if you don't see what you want to pursue, like, create it basically.
No,
So I
most
think
definitely.
that's very interesting. And last piece before we move on here, how do you think the model that you adopted really early on has really kind of taken storm for professional athletes now? We see a lot of professional athletes with their own media companies or media platforms. What is your take on how it's evolved since you started doing this in 2016?
No, it's been a great change. It's almost like it's tough to keep up because it's always evolving. I know when I started, obviously you take advantage of the platforms that are given to you, whether it's the Instagrams or the YouTubes of the world. But now people are coming in and having their own production companies or their own media companies, and they're working with big brands to create content on a consistent level. When I started, it was all right. Maybe the few pathways, if you're unless you're a big brand, it's like, all right, affiliate marketing. Can I get free product in exchange for promoting it, and then get a commission link? Now, some of these deals that not even professional athletes are getting, but NIL athletes are getting, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna promote it, but I need some money up front. So just the structure of different deals, um, it's no longer just an affiliate deal or product in exchange for post. I think a lot of times when it comes to even the brand posting structure. It's like, give me the product and I'll create my own content campaign around it as long as it's within guidelines versus we need you to do it strictly to this budget. So you're seeing a lot more creativity. And I think that comes with the leverage of having your own media company or your own production company where you can control the edits, the structure, the script. And then because you have enough stature, whether it's through influence or impressions or leverage, the brands or the companies that want to work with you, they're gonna have to play ball to your game.
Absolutely. Leverage has been a theme in this conversation too. And I think it's a very small difference between a brand reaching out to an individual influencer and company for UGC versus if you start a platform, now it's brand to brand, it's business to business. And
Exactly.
it's a very different dynamic. So that's very interesting. All right. So now let's talk about money, because this is the first perfect person to talk to about
uh,
money, Mr. Frugal Athlete. When did you realize that you had to change how you were operating Frugal Athlete from hobby into business?
yeah. So when a mentor of mine was saying, he basically challenged me. He said, "If you're not making money, I know we started off with that quote. He said, "You're not making money. It's basically a hobby." So he's like, I'm not sure about your hobbies, but my hobby, I like to play golf. I like to do hikes, and you're doing all these different things. You got to turn it into a business. And he's like, he really asked me, what problem are you solving? So I really like went back into the drawing board, really figured out what I want from, my career, both, as a soccer player, as an entrepreneur, and it really dove into what a frugal athlete is right now and what it could be and where it's going. And that's really what kind of changed the structure of how I monetize. So, not to say that I wasn't going to continue doing work that was impactful at a free level, but getting paid what you're worth because of the work that you put in and because the fact that you're doing the work behind the scenes, you should be compensated for it. So that was the shift, and it's always evolving. There's things that I continue to learn, whether it's um, the hard way or just through the wonderful mentors and people that I are connected with. I'm connected with. But yeah, definitely monetize early, especially if you consider yourself a business, because that's what you are as an athlete.
Yes, and there's a very slight but important difference that you just touched on in moving from hobby or creative outlet into doing it as a business. And I think when it's in the hobby lane, it's like, what do I want to create and what do I want to put out and how do I want to express myself, which is very important. And I think, honestly, I think that's where a lot of people should start and stay, honestly. But like, because if you want to do it as a business, it is just even a different relationship with your content and how you think
Yeah.
about it and how much time you're investing in it. So if you want to stay with hobby, stay with hobby. But if you're doing it as a business, it's about what problem am I solving in the market? What gap am I filling? Who is a target audience? What are my products and services? Just literally moving your content into a business model versus just creating content and seeing what opportunities come from it and seeing what brands reach out to you. It's like reactive versus proactive.
No, exactly. Like you, I mean, you hit the nail on the head.
Yep.
And I think whether if you have it a hobby, no disrespect, that's cool. You can have it as a hobby, but there's different ways to go about it. Whether you have fun content, creative content versus structured content that's serving a purpose, as long as you have your end goal in mind and how you're structuring it from the products and services or why people are coming to your page. So even if
Yes.
it's like, oh, I'm a comedian, it's like I make people laugh through my content. So all the content that I'm making, maybe not all of it, but a majority of it is, humoristic content to help people stay engaged, entertained, whatever that may be. If I'm all right, I want people to learn about the college experience behind the scenes. So I'm sharing with them like all the products I use, day in the life, what it's like traveling, doing school, playing sports, whatever. So now you're making content specifically to that. So I think you hit the nail on the head as it pertains to making your content or making yourself a business, and your content is an engine for that.
And also, what you just said, like value add doesn't just have to be how to content. It doesn't have to be educational and breaking things down. There's also value add in entertainment and also curation too. I think that is like another
No,
way
that's a big one.
to add value to people. So don't think that in order to make the transition, you have to be an expert in something, right? It's just all about how
Exactly.
you think about the positioning. What were your first steps in having the realization into making that plan and taking action? Like, how did you learn how to monetize the content that you had made?
So I studied. Luckily, one of my good friends, he was a creator. He did a lot of like product reviews, and like I really tapped into him as a resource. So the first thing I did, and I talked about it, or we talk about it quite often, is like I kind of followed like the regular influencers. So there's a bunch of different influencer platforms. Signed up for all of those. I had an Amazon affiliate account. I got some structure in terms of like, all right, these are the workshops I do. These are the speaking engagement prices that I have, and like just kind of built the infrastructure and the foundation of a frugal athlete, and then went about creating content and then kind of making a funnel system. So the content is going to drive into my page. The page is going to drive into either the newsletter or to my like more information about me page, and then from there they're either going to tap in, inquire, or they're going to just book me straight up. And then as I continue to build, hopefully more products, more information, more courses, it's all going to kind of tie back into our end goal of what a frugal athlete is.
Can you expand on the marketing funnel concept and like how you implemented it? Because I think it's such it's a general broad marketing concept, but I think more creators need to hear it and like understand how that works.
Yeah, so basically, it's like you trying to get people to your home, and as weird as a analogy that is, it's like you're finding different ways to invite them to your home because that's where you're going to be able to serve them food, and that's where they're going to end up um, shopping for the food. So that's let me not say home. Let me say you want to get them to your restaurant and you want them to buy food. So whatever it is, whether it's for me the content, so basically information about all right the type of food that I make, and then you got the newsletter. So behind the scenes information about the food that I make. You're always trying to get them to your restaurant. And that's what I've been trying to do with the content. So, for example, would be all right, five things I did as a rookie from a financial perspective, and then I would only have three in the blog, and then the last two you would have to click a link to subscribe to my newsletter. So now you're on my newsletter. Now I got the data, your email, your name, your contact, and then from there, once you get them on your newsletter, you own that. So it's not like they're following you on Instagram and they can unfollow you if they're trying to clean up their follower list. It's not like they're on YouTube. It's you got their email, and as bad as it sounds, like that data is very important because you can target them with more information. Obviously, you want to lead with information. You want to lead with authenticity, but at the end of the day, you want them to come to your restaurant and eat. So the closer I am in connection with them, the easier it is for them to get to my restaurant. So that's kind of the philosophy I take. Um, Feed with information. I know Gary Vee, he always talks about jab, jab, right hook. So, continue to feed with information. And then eventually they're going to be like, oh, I really like what Amobi's talking about. I want to learn more. Let me sign up to his newsletter. Let me go to his website. Oh, he has a course, like the 10 rookie mistakes that every athlete makes when they first come into money. Oh, okay. I've heard about the two that he shared, but what are the other eight? Bam, let me buy the course. Oh, I've learned a lot. Like now I'm applying it to my own career, or I'm sharing it with my athlete friend. Okay, now he's coming out with the second one. Because I like the first one, I'm coming back to the restaurant to eat again. So it's a long-winded answer on how funnels work or how they're targeted. I think what's popular now, you see like the Twitter threads, you see like the TikTok series, like How I Got Pro, part one, part two, part three, for part 5 through 7, subscribe to my YouTube. So things like that to lead them to the restaurant. That's kind of my version or definition of a funnel.
Something I took away from what you just said is that in order to make the most of all the content that you're posting, you need a home.
Yeah,
Because if you don't, then you're creating without intent. You need a home base that clearly positions how you can further add value through the different offerings that you have, or services that you have, or ways for brands to partner with you. And another framework that this reminded me of is Audience Building 101 by Alex Lieberman, the founder of Morning Brew. He says
oh, great
there's
guy.
great guy. Rented, owned, monetized audience. Rented is where we all start on social media to get distribution and awareness and discoverability. And the goal is, how do you drive them down the funnel to something that you own, whether it's text or email? And then eventually, how do you monetize the audience through the right products and services? And really, the biggest advantage of a creator is that you are constantly in contact with your customers, right? Your
Exactly.
future
Yeah.
customers. So you're able to see what they want from you and see what they want more of. So even pay attention to that as you're creating content too. Like, everything that you get feedback on is a clue for what is a future offering that I could have? What is a future service that I could have? So that's very important from what you just shared too. What has been the best monetization strategy for you so far?
Oh, the podcast, to be honest, like you're able to get
Ooh.
in front of so many different people and you're able to leverage other people's networks. It's like a network effect. And the easiest way to get in touch with somebody that you may not be able to get in touch with is through a podcast, because I don't want to say everyone wants to tell their own story, but you're enhancing their story by showcasing them. When you give assist, you get buckets. It's easier to give assist and let someone else score than try to score yourself. So that's the podcast for you. And because you're able to get the network effect, um, that's been a that's been probably my number one way. And then in terms of monetizing the podcast, the show notes, you got the podcast you can put on YouTube, you got brand sponsors, you got live shows, you got affiliate marketing. If you do like, all right, if I had you on a podcast, Kirby's top 5 book recommendations, or you can even work out a deal. It's like, Kirby, I know you have a course coming out. in order to get Kirby's course, type frugal for whatever. Like, so for me, the podcast turned into a blog. Um, there's so many different ways. So that's number one. And then number two, speaking engagements and workshops, just because you can make a lot for like only an hour of your time. And as long as you're, a pretty good public speaker, you know how to tell a story and you're engaging, um, you can do some really good work in the speaking engagement space.
And if you're not a great speaker yet, starting a podcast is a great way to become a great speaker. So across
Most
everything that
definitely.
you shared, like what I'm taking away is that a podcast is such a great ROI on your time, which is something that is honestly like a lot of guests have touched on that have started podcasts, that it really is the best way or investment as a creator to one, get the most out of your content, two, create a network effect around your brand, which I think is really important in terms of elevating from the brand being about you to the brand being about a community. And I think community driven brands are really going to be the brands that last a long time. Think about your
Yeah,
podcast or this podcast. Like every person that joins Frugal Athlete now feels like they're a part of the ecosystem, and they
exactly.
have this loyalty and they advocate for the brand. Like I feel like I'm Frugal Athlete's number one fan. And I joined, I've known you for years now, but
Yeah,
I joined the podcast like a year ago. So just even
exactly.
thinking about the podcast as a tool to like enlist brand advocates for your business, really, it is a really powerful tool.
No, most definitely. And like, yeah, you said it best ROI, um, easy integration in terms of getting
Mm-hmm.
started. You don't have to worry about like you can literally start from a phone.
Yep.
If you're not familiar, I know the young kids know how to edit and stuff, but podcast is talking. You become a better public speaker. You better become a better conversationalist. Great network. There's just a lot of benefits. And I'm not saying you have to become the next I am athlete or the pivot or Joe Rogan or Joe
Mm-hmm.
Budden or whatever, but a podcast is truly still beneficial. Um, whether you got 1,000 followers or 100,000 or 50, because of all the benefits that you had mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. And speaking of high leverage, another great offering is also a course. And I'd love to dive into your experience with that because I know you've built courses. And the reason they are so high leverage is because it's that whole build once, sell twice, philosophy that everyone sees on Twitter if you spend a lot of time on Twitter. But you're able to productize yourself and your knowledge and the experiences that you have. And I'd love to learn more about why you've gravitated towards a course, and how you feel that has contributed to the growth of Frugal Athlete.
Yeah, and I think the course is a great tool. I think for me personally, 2023 and beyond, I'm going to go heavy on courses. I think there was a study that said by 2025, it's going to be like well, it's already like $1 billion industry, but it's going to like 3x or 5x. Um, but you're able to package your experiences. There was something I read earlier. It's like people love to get information, but when people package it, it's they're willing to pay for it, and that's what a course does. Especially if someone like yourself or someone like me that's been able to learn a lot or are considered subject matter experts in a particular subject. People don't have time to go on Google or go on Twitter, go on Instagram, go on YouTube to like get all that information. And if they have a trusted resource that they follow that puts it in a compact, well concise, engaging format, they're willing to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars to learn that information from someone that they trust. So I definitely agree. Courses is the way to go. It's helped us tremendously with the Frugal Athlete. To be fair, we feel like we haven't even scratched the surface. We only have one course like that we really truly publicize, and that's the rookie mistakes. And even that one, we're gonna redo that and like really make it short, sweet, really concise, really more engaging, and then continue to iterate from there.
As you said, rookie mistakes, the name just like popped out to me. Like it's great branding. And I also think similar to a podcast, a course is a great building block of IP that you can
Oh
expand
yeah.
upon. So like from a course, you can do a live workshop, you can do a speaking engagement, you can turn it into a conference, like all from the framework that you develop, like your proprietary framework of this is how you become a frugal athlete. You can monetize that same thing in different ways. I think the hardest part, honestly, is just getting it to that first
Yeah.
iteration. Oh my
Oh my
gosh, it was
goodness.
so hard.
That's the hardest part. Like if you see my notes right now, I probably have like a whole curriculum of courses.
Oh
But
my god, I
actually
we both just died laughing because like that it is hard. It is
yeah.
hard. If there is someone that makes courses out there, like hit me and Amobi up because
Please.
I probably have upwards of like 300 plus pages of like
just
courses,
you
different
just rent a
courses.
studio for a day and just really like we're gonna do get a
Yeah.
teleprompter, make it happen. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's what I have to do. I just have to say F it at this point and be like, let it fly. Because I do agree. I think courses are a great starting point. But it is just a matter of sitting down and making the decision, not pivoting,
yeah,
and getting the person out there. Because once you do, it's just opportunity abundance.
yeah,
So that is super helpful. And I'd love to touch on one other monetization area around brand partnerships. And I don't say sponsorships because I feel like that analogy that we made earlier, it's not brand reaching out, hey, Amobi, come do this for us.
yeah.
It's like this brand wants to work with the amazing presence and platform that you've built in Frugal Athlete, and there's a difference there. It's more collaborative, it's more of a partnership. And so I'd be curious to hear if there are any collaborations that you've done that have like stood out to you and how you've brought that philosophy, excuse me, to the table.
No, yeah, I really like your wording in terms of partnership or sponsorship. I think that's very key, especially as we continue to evolve in the creator economy. I think one partnership that comes to mind is the one I did with the Shift Group and their career services platform that helps athletes transition into sales. So I did not know tech sales was as lucrative or as from a synergy standpoint, athletes really navigate into that space until I connected with them and we were able to develop a unique partnership that highlighted that where I created content that I like doing versus them just saying can you do like an ad read and hopefully we'll see the impressions. So I think that was really cool and the partnership helped. It wasn't just all right, cool, I'm promoting this product. Buy it. It was more about highlighting the opportunities that athletes have in the tech space and we're able to interview different companies, able to interview athletes that however already transitioned. We're able to share information about the sales space. So I really thought that was really impactful. And for me personally, it allowed me to be creative. I could come up with my own concepts, and they were willing to hear me out and work together to get something done. And then one point I want to make is that depending because I was always nervous when it comes to like oh I don't have a lot of followers so I'm just gonna go off what they give me as a budget. But if you package your your pitch right and if you speak with credibility, um, because content is of the essence at this point, you can put a legitimate price tag behind you behind what you're working with. So don't hesitate if you feel like you got 1,000 followers or 10,000 or 100,000. If the people are going to use like the CPM analytics stuff, yeah, that's cool, but you're worth more than any click per rate that they're going to try to throw at you.
It's the same framework and like service-based businesses, like don't charge hourly, charge for
Yeah,
the value. And the same thing is true for creators. Don't charge for your follower count or yeah, what you just said, like the click-through rates, like charge for your knowledge and experience and brand credibility, all these things that are more valuable to the brand than
exactly.
numbers, I feel. So I love that you said that. Based on where you have brought Frugal Athlete so far, what opportunities, and don't reveal the gems, but like, how do you think about your progression as a creator and really scaling yourself? I think is the question that a lot of creators are thinking about now.
Yeah, and I think I said something on LinkedIn the other day, but like because you have athletes of all calibers getting into the creator space, if you're a niche or micro creator, athlete creator, don't feel discouraged. There's plenty of apps to help you scale without having a whole full service media team where you have like a on staff videographer. There's plenty of tools and products that you can use, and you're on a podcast with a creator expert, so she could put you in touch with them. Or if you need additional help, don't hesitate. But for me, I think coming up with concepts and then building out like plans from there. Like I'm really good at ideas now. So if I see like content I like, I can build out like a content strategy for it, as it relates to Frugal Athlete. If a brand reaches out and we have like an initial meeting, by the end of the meeting, I have like three different ideas that I can pitch them in terms of like video campaign type series. Um, and I think that just comes with practice, comes with research, comes with actually doing. And yeah, I'm really happy with the way we're gonna go. I think the biggest thing for me is I don't want to say imposter syndrome, but like it's a bandwidth issue. So I made a big jump. I hired like a virtual assistant and a personal assistant. So like I have no excuses. Um, but yeah, it's just the bandwidth and then like just getting in front of the camera and executing. Like it doesn't make sense to have all this stuff in your notes or have like stuff on Notion or Airtable and then not create the content. So yeah, just kind of got to do it.
Hey, let's hold each other to it. I better do the course and you better execute these ideas. All right.
Almost definitely. I'll hold. January 1st. I'm gonna hit you up. Like, oh, what's the date on this
Like,
course
where
that you
you
got?
at?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. It better be out by the time this interview
yeah,
goes live.
most definitely. Someone told me
Okay.
like do pre-order, so like you get it and you're like, oh damn, I
Ooh.
owe them. Like, I got to get the course
Mm-hmm.
because they already ordered it. So
Right.
that's
Right.
like a
Money on the
trick to
line.
yourself.
I love it. All right. Advice, rapid fire. These are notes to your younger self. Knowing what
Oh,
you
I
know
like
now,
this.
all the
This is a new
experience.
segment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yep. On my segment vibe. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself from across different, I can't even speak, across different stages of your creator journey? So I want to know first, what would Amobi today tell younger Amobi when he was starting a frugal athlete?
Uh, use your personal journey. Yeah, share your personal journey. Be authentic, and hone in on Amobi Okugo is a frugal athlete.
Mm-hmm. All right. What would you tell yourself when you were writing your first business plan for a frugal athlete?
Solve a problem. You know, don't worry about all the antics of like the different pillars and executive summary. What problem are you solving and how you're going to go about it? I know the book
Mm-hmm.
Start with Why is a big one. Um, and definitely, when you start with why, then you say why you're doing it, what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and then the rest will follow.
Absolutely. All right. Last one, best one. What advice would you give yourself when you made your first hire?
Ooh, uh, delegate. It's always like at the end of the day, you have parameters like the information that I put out is not gonna kill anybody. It's not gonna get me canceled. At the end of the day, if they make a mistake, you can delete it. So delegate, and in order to delegate to elevate, that's my thing. And when you give the people you hire more responsibility, they feel more engaged, more motivated to actually do the work. So um, early on, I was like trying to handhold. I was like, yo, if mess up, it's on me. Like, yeah, that's true. But if you give enough parameters in place, it's like bowling with guardrails. It's not going to go into the next lane. So I would say delegate a little bit more and focus on the high priority task. Let them do the other stuff.
And bring in people that are better than you at the things that you're not best suited to do, right? It's like there are
Oh,
people
facts.
out there that are better at creating video content, that are better at handling operations, and like get inspired by the opportunity to work with those people and like let them do them so that you can do you and like be in front of the mic, be in front of the camera, and do what you do best. So I love that tip. Well, thank you. This is awesome. Thank you, Amobi. This was a great breakdown that I think was just like so perfect for like the brand that you have built around financial literacy for athletes. I think a lot of us as more athletes are getting into the creator economy want to understand like how they can approach this with an entrepreneurial mind, and you have absolutely helped us think about that. So thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me, and excited to see where New Game Labs goes. Count me in as the first pre-order if your other guests haven't already pre-ordered. So, and then
I
yeah,
love
Frugal
it.
Athlete, New Game Labs. There's going to be a course at some point. We don't know when,
Come on.
but I'm gonna lean on Kirby to make it happen.
Hey, we'll absolutely make that happen. And another shout out to whoever makes courses for people. Please hit us up.
Most definitely.
All right.